So good to see a session on content at AdTech, because advertising is going to be driven by content, social, and apps. I don't see apps really as content, to be honest. It's more services. But we have an esteemed panel over here of people who are driving content creation, and we should get a sense of where content is going and what sort of patterns we're seeing in terms of usage. Just a small data point, Idea Cellular last quarter reported that its mobile data consumption is up by about 120% year on year. That's the amount of bandwidth that's being consumed on mobile. So I'm going to hand it over to the panelists to initially just talk about a few usage trends that they're seeing on their own platforms and to give us a sense of where this is all going. We'll start with Vikram.
Thanks. I assume you want us to keep us really short, and then we have not a 5-minute bhashan. All right. Well, you know, I have to say that it became fairly clear to us a long time back that the entire viewing experience, the entire content experience is going to start to change, which is why as early as 1999, we took the plunge and saying that while television was very much the present at that time of the NDTV group, the future was eventually going to be online. And it has taken a fairly long journey. It's taken 10 to 15 years before that promise has become a reality. But today, if you ask people anywhere, when you go to a gathering, or you come to a place like this, you go anywhere and you ask people, how are you getting your content? Where are you getting your news from? And we'll be quite gratified a lot of the time to have people saying, oh, it's from NDTV, which is great. Like we just heard, thanks a lot for that. So, you know, they will say NDTV, but increasingly, you will hear people saying, when you ask them where and how, it's on the NDTV app, it's by following NDTV on Twitter, it's by getting that alert flashing up. If right now, I mean, I can tell you right now that you were asking that question about whom would India prefer to play. So I can tell you that Pakistan right now is 69 for 2. Doing better. Misbah-ul Haq almost bowled the bail went off and came back down. So that's been what's been happening. And I got all of that from the NDTV app, so in the last 5-10 minutes. So you do get content, and you're getting content increasingly from this. And from our point of view now, I think we are starting to reach the tipping point where we are probably touching as many, if not more people online as we are touching on television. And that's a revolutionary moment for an old media company, quote unquote old media company. The day you start to realize that you're as much a new media company as you are an old media company. We had a town hall at NDTV about a year or 2 years ago, and I asked people, how many of you think you work for a TV company? And at that time, a majority of people still raised their hand and said, yeah, it's a TV company. And we said, wrong, you're actually working for an app company. Because the number of people who are accessing NDTV now on the app is massive. The number of people who experience NDTV, if you take the entire online medium online, is perhaps more than TV. And I think that's the single biggest data point I can give you. You can have a television company which more people are touching through online.
No, but there's also the challenge that it isn't a limited distribution experience. Right? There's news all over the place. It's all over Twitter. So in that sense, how do you as a company differentiate yourself? There are new app companies like, for example, News in Shots, which are catering to an audience that's consuming news very, very quickly and in short bites. How do you deal with that situation as not just as an app company, but as a news business?
You know, I'm so glad you asked that question, because while people started to get 3 or 4 years ago that yes, everything is going to move online, the big question that everyone was saying is, yeah, but you know, all of you old big guys are done, you know, because now everyone's going to be generating their own news. You're going to be having content coming up on Twitter. People are going to be feeding in their own news. You'll get it directly from the ground. Aggregators will be there and they'll get their news from a large number of people. So that's it. You know, what role do big media companies have to play?
I don't watch TV anymore. My primary consumption is on Twitter.
You may not be watching, right, but whom are you following on Twitter? That's the question. Whom are you, so you may be saying I'm getting my news from Twitter or from online or from the app, but whom are you following? Where are you getting the information from? And that's the point that I think many people were missing out, which is becoming increasingly clear right now. Even if at the end of the day, content is coming to you in a different format, not on your TV screen, but on your mobile phone. But you still trust the same number, the same people to give you that news. If you get a flash coming up saying blah, blah, blah has happened somewhere, you may or you may not believe in it. But when you see it on the NDTV app and you see it as the NDTV alert, when you're following X number of people and that's when you get it, that's when you believe that information. So today, if you take a look at, let's just go to something like Twitter, for example. Who are the most followed brands on Twitter in the country today? The most followed company on Twitter in India today is NDTV. Who are the people, and if you go apart from NDTV, look at the other sub brands that we have. Look at people, Barkha, Pranoy, whoever they are, 500,000 followers, 1 million, 2 million, 3 million followers. Those are the people whom people are following and getting their news from, not somebody who's doing a pure online blog. So therefore, in the new paradigm, the old brands are still powerful, provided they have embraced online.
So let's look at this from a business perspective, right? The transience of the web is again a big issue, right? Especially of news online. When I look at at catalog content, for example, music and video, that sustains and people consume a lot of catalog content. How do you see news playing out online where it's just 15, 20 minutes, it doesn't play out much beyond that, does it? And as a business, how do you monetize? Because your cost of content creation is much higher.
Well, actually, we monetize rather well. Sunil sitting out here, so thanks Sunil for that, and the others who are here. So we monetize actually rather well. We're more profitable online than we are on television, which is we're perhaps one of the few companies in the world which are doing that. So we are monetizing, and people are getting it. One of the other things, though, which is interesting to know, and that's specific to NDTV, we're not just news online. In fact, news for us online is barely now 20 to 25% of what we are doing. There's a lot of other content that we're doing, whether it's gadgets or food or auto or sports even, and that is where a lot of the traffic is coming from, and that's not entirely transient. But it doesn't matter if the flash is transient. It doesn't, as long as we are being able to demonstrate that people, when the next big event is going to take place right now, in the next 1 hour, a big event is going to take place somewhere in the country. And in this hall, you've told everyone to keep their phones on silent, but if they hadn't done that, you would have beeps going all across this room with the NDTV app alert coming on. And people will be looking at their phone and saying, oh, this has just happened. That's okay. That's what we need. And that can be monetized.
Okay. So just move on to Mahesh. Mahesh, tell us about some usage patterns for music online. There's been a massive shift over the last year and a half from piracy. How many people here torrent, by the way? You should Okay, so a few confessions out there. So that action shifted to streaming now. What's driving that change? What sort of usage patterns are you seeing?
Sure. Firstly, great to be here. Thank you very much. India now has north of 100 million smartphones, and the other most important factor is that India is a music-obsessed country. Put these two together, and you know that consumption of music is going to be driven by these devices today.
Yeah.
I was looking at an interesting research that was put out recently, which said that most Indian smartphone owners like to have music, like to listen to music in some form or the other on their mobile devices. Now,
okay, so that's obvious.
That's the obvious one.
Give me data that isn't obvious.
Correct. So I think what's interesting is that Indians have gone from cassettes to CDs to streaming straight away, right? And why would that happen?
There was downloading in the middle, but
correct.
songs on PK was very
I think
popular.
we jumped that leg after download to streaming now pretty quickly, right? And why did that happen? I think primarily because the streaming brings certain important benefits to the user. Streaming is free, streaming is unlimited, streaming is high quality, and most importantly is legal.
How many music streams do you serve in a month?
So today, for example, we actually put this number out recently as well. We now serve north of 200 million streams a month on a monthly basis, and that's, I think if I sit here 3 months from now, I'd probably be saying we're doing closer to 500 million streams a month. That's the kind of growth rate that we're seeing on a monthly basis. Again, so we look at two aspects. We look at user and in user growth, and we look at usage. today, in terms of users, we're north of 12 million monthly active users, and growing very aggressively. We expect that number to be anywhere in between 20 to 25 million users.
And what's the average time spent? How much time do people spend in a day?
So that's the other interesting aspect. The average time spent on the app is about 44 minutes, which means that per session. So which means that the user gets locked in and listens to content, and he's a very engaged user. This is content that he or she wants to listen to, and has created different playlists. And it's also the patterns of content consumption at different points of time in the day. For example, one of the things that we think about globally is that we are a digital music streaming company, but we are also a data company. We look at a lot of data. We try to look at clusters of listening patterns. One clear pattern, and I think that's true to Indian habit, is that late in the night, you have Indians listening to old Hindi music, for example. And that's a typical Indian habit, I think, of listening to old Kishore Kumar, Rafi kind of music. On the other hand, early in the morning when you have a spike in devotional kind of content being consumed. And then through drive time, there's a different pattern of consumption. I think what's interesting is the fact that you remember the day when you'd go to a friend's place with a cassette, and you know that he has great taste in music, and you wanted to kind of replicate that, and create you take a blank tape, you say, hey.
So you're talking about the playlists.
So you can now
sharing a playlist, right?
You can actually do that at the tap of a button on your device.
As a business, right? How do you monetize that aspect?
At the end of the day, it's consumption, content consumption, right? This is a feature, right? This is one feature among many, right? A playlist. The capability to follow your playlist as an individual, or Vikram's playlist as a celebrity, for example, is a feature. What makes it interesting is that, for example, if Vikram adds a new song to his playlist, his 2 million followers get notified about what's the new song that he's added.
Right, that's
right?
the new feature that you've just
correct. And in terms of monetization from that, it's at the end of the day, he's consuming content, and you're going to be monetizing that in the usual manner.
No, so on music streaming, what are the metrics of ad sales that you look at? Like, do you charge per stream? How do you measure?
No, the way it works is a conventional. You understand the YouTube model? We've exactly replicated that on the music model. So it's an ad platform. It's got the same deep targeting capabilities that an AdMob or an InMobi has in terms of carrier, operator, device targeting options. And then in terms of the genres that you can target different kind of genres. So it's exactly the same kind of model. It's an impact spot that we have. It's a native ad form that we have.
Okay.
And brands have the opportunity. So we allow users 15 minutes of uninterrupted listening time. And then brands have the opportunity to engage with users at the end of it in the form of a spot, an ad, an impact spot, which is an audio spot combined with a display banner.
Okay.
Sorry, there's a question I've been wanting to ask Savan. I might as well use this occasion to do it, because there's one thing that you have done, which I think you're the only Indian company to do it, and perhaps that's something where, again, it could be a paradigm shift. You've got yourself integrated into Sonos, for example.
Right.
And as a result of that, quite apart from your mobile device, even in your home entertainment system, you could get a Savan connection and have music playing in your house wherever you are, constantly, around the clock, 24 hours. I think we charge 250 rupees or so for it. Is that seeing good traction?
Yes.
Tell me to shut up if it's a secret and you don't want to talk about it.
It's out in the open. I think it's something. In fact, there's some press going out this week, I believe. So I think the fact that we're a global company and the fact that we have offices in New York and San Francisco helps get a global perspective, and we're able to kind of get into these kind of devices, which are new age devices that users are listening to. This is probably the 4th time a senior CXO level person has said the same thing to me. I got the same kind of comment at another conference about 3 weeks ago. The listening experience that you have within Sonos is completely different. Sonos, for people who've not heard of it, is a very high-end listening device, a set of speakers. And you can actually stream music from Sonos using Savan. We've actually baked Savan into Sonos. Yeah. It's actually working pretty well. But having said that, they haven't launched officially in India. So So connoisseurs of music like you probably have gone and figured out Sonos. You can buy Sonos from certain stores. You can still buy, but they haven't kind of officially done like a Samsung-ish launch in India.
You can get it now online here in
Yeah.
India, but it's expensive. It's much more expensive than
It's about 25% more expensive. I bought mine. But
So it's actually worked very
Once
well.
you build that experience, you could do that on other devices which are lower.
Correct. And that's probably the path that, the future path that we will take as well. IoT is another thing, the Internet of Things is another thing. Devices where you'd be able to consume content of is the kind of direction that we probably take as well.
So just one last thing about the advertising piece, Mahesh. Is there a sort of commoditization of ad rates that impacts your experience, that impacts your business? Because online has traditionally not been about a branded experience. It's just the rates keep going down and down. That's the way I see it.
So if you
And in that sense, do you see your monetization largely coming from advertising, or do you see it coming from subscription?
So firstly, globally, Spotify, for example, is 90-10 subscription to advertising, I think.
Yeah.
We expect us to be exactly the reverse, which is probably 90% advertising-led and 10% subscription-led. In terms of monetization opportunities, look, we have one of the most premium, probably the only premium publisher in the content space, in the mobile space in India, if you look at it from that point of view, right? And it's a different native ad format, different from even a Google format on mobile, or different from even a Facebook format on mobile. It's a very engaged user. As a brand, the opportunity to engage with the user during his content consumption experience, right? It's quasi-mobile, quasi-radio experience, right? So from that point of view, I would probably disagree that there is a glut of inventory, because this is actually premium quality inventory, different from network inventory that you would typically buy on the networks, for example. So the quality of inventory and the high quality ad impressions that you would get, and the kind of engagement that a brand can drive using this platform is, I think, what makes it different.
Okay. And what are the ballpark ad rates?
We can talk about that separately.
Okay. Let's move on to Uday. Uday, so one of the things I've been wondering about Sony's video business is there life outside YouTube? Because the way I'm looking at it, YouTube is just overpowering all video online. So how's your...
So the overall market today, in terms of the entire video number of impressions or number of video plays today, is about roughly in the region of 4 billion videos a month, give or take something. And I think people are consuming maybe about 7 odd minutes average. So it's about 25 billion odd minutes a month. So that's the size of the play. Bulk of it today is obviously the big daddy in the game is YouTube. And obviously they as a platform are the market creators. And I think they're creating the market. They're the early investors in the whole video space. It's a highly expensive business to be in.
No, in India we've seen,
I think we've
players
seen
come over the years. You've seen.
So it's
something
not only
like a
India,
Pencil
it's
Vision.
most markets. It's not only India. I think there are global leaders in the entire video space. I think they're out there creating the market. We're all picking up our pieces. We're all doing our piece. And I think that's how markets evolve. There would be one player who would lead the pack, and then the others will learn from that experience and put it out there. So as a platform today, in Sony, we do close to about 150 million videos a month, which is a fairly large number across all the platforms that we deal in. We don't do only on our app, we do it across. We obviously do a lot of stuff with YouTube, we do a lot of stuff with other partners, and a few partners are here in the audience. So, we're working with a large set of people. As a result, we're reaching a large consumer base.
Shit, sorry, my phone just went off. Sorry. Please.
So we're reaching a large consumer base, and I think YouTube is part of our plot. It's part of our plan. I think you can't take it out of the plot, especially in the early stage. And we are probably at a far earlier stage compared to what news is and what probably music is in terms of evolution.
No, so do you see a consumption pattern shifting in video? Is there going to be cord cutting where people stop watching TV? I mean, I'm one of those guys who's done that, to stop watching TV and as a business, how do you adapt to that shift?
So I think most TV channels, whether it is news or others, are looking digital as a strategy by itself or reaching out to users. There could be some people who are way ahead on the evolution in terms of maybe someone like you who's probably not watching significant amount of television, and there are people who are doing television and using digital as a catch-up medium. So there would be various types of people in the entire basket of people who are out there, and we're more than happy with more people coming on digital because we're able to monetize, we're able to reach out to consumers, we're able to give a good experience to consumers out there.
So do you expect the consumption of video online to be linear, or do you expect it to shift largely towards VOD? Because, I mean, it's a question I got from someone in the video business a couple of days ago, saying that if I'm launching a channel online, should I make it a single stream? What sort of consumption do you see, and do you actually live stream your TV channels as well?
So we do live streaming of our channels in some places. With some of our partners, we're doing live streaming of channels. On some places, we're doing VOD. I think there is no real play saying whether it will be live or whether it will be VOD. I think some consumers would like to do, a cord cutter like you might want to go and watch the channel and have appointment viewing on the digital medium, because the number of screens that we have in front of us are multiplying. Therefore, with which screen you have, which screen you have in front of you at that point in time, and therefore what content you want to watch at that point in time, is it live or is it non-live, depends on it. Now, in the US, the markets are slightly different because the price points there determine a lot on the swing from VOD to
and
live.
in the US, it's largely a subscription-driven business outside of YouTube.
And also the ARPU on television very high. So if you take a cable television to your home, you're almost dishing out $100. Therefore, to get live TV on your digital device becomes that much more cheaper. So there is an ARPU swing. In India, because television is that much more cheaper to get, and in your base pack you more or less get all the channels, therefore the swing to live on digital is that much lesser, and it's more a catch-up medium.
Can I also just say, I think the other big trend is multi-screen consumption, and then this is not meant to be a plug for you, but multi-screen consumption.
So what is happening on the content side is much like how you see on the films, and content is not just the core content. Core content is part of the overall strategy. So you're doing not just the show, you're doing 20 things around the show on digital which creates content. So while there is news out there and there is the program which is out there, there's a lot of additional content which is getting created around, which attracts a lot of consumers to digital. So you're not only looking at how the song or listening to the song, you're also listening to how the song was made. And what happens behind the scenes when the show is made, and maybe some spoofs of a news story which go out. Which is driving a lot of consumption on the digital platform. So it's not just the content, which is the difference that digital can bring to the table.
So from a business perspective, from an advertiser point of view, how does exclusivity play out online? Is that something that you would be investing in for creating made for web video, and what are your interactions with advertisers like around that?
So I think we are very excited about made for 2000. Next year probably is going to be, or this year is going to be a big year.
So I heard I heard that in 2008, then 2009. Every year seems to be the year for made for video content.
We are already there. I think there is significant amount of made for digital video out there. And I think most of us are now taking it seriously. We were experimenting with it, trying little things. I think this year we would do significant stuff on made for digital. I think this is also linked to monetization. Because I think monetization has now...
Is there business interest from advertisers?
Absolutely. So most advertisers are far more open to discussing made for digital videos, because the reach that you are able to get today and the direct connect that you are able to get with the consumers is much more. In fact, some brands are doing brand videos which are much longer than the advertising. and that by itself is encouraging them to invest in made-for-digital videos. So I think the whole ecosystem on digital videos is set to explode. So if we're doing 4 billion videos a month as a country, with the smartphones going up, with 3G going up, with cost of devices going down, are we going to be a 40 billion videos very soon? I don't know. But that's the kind of consumption we're going to see. And a lot of it is going to be driven not only by branded content, it's also going to be driven by a lot of content that's going to be made for digital.
Mahesh, you guys have exclusive music launches as well. How does that play out, both from a cost perspective as well as a business perspective?
So exclusive is not a strategy. Exclusive is a tactical.
Exclusive was a strategy for the longest time in music.
Correct. So I think that the day and age where you starve certain players of the same content and try to ring fence content with you and try to appear as the winner is over, right? I think content is king. We've heard that a lot of times, but content is also going to be available on all the platforms. I think the experience is king today, right? The experience of consumption of that content is probably what's going to make you king. The reason why NDTV is NDTV today is because that experience on those devices and the kind of experience that you get when you consume that on even on the web, for example, is completely different, right? It's a very high quality consumption. So I think we have a property called Hear It First, which is where we launch songs or an album or an exclusive Bollywood album or even an international album or a Tamil album, for example, exclusively for a couple of days or maybe 5 days or 7 days for a certain duration of time. But that's more a promo and rather than a strategy to starve other players out. And that's increasingly going to be available to everyone. But what's going to differ, what's going to help differentiate between different platforms is the plus on top. So what more can you offer? For example, can you offer something which is the example that Uday spoke about, the making of or the background conversations and the theory behind the music that came together. That would probably start differentiating going forward. And it's also from a product and feature point of view, the experience of how you consume that. When you consume something in a linear fashion, it's kind of uncool now. But when you consume something in a very cool environment and you can share and you can actually have a conversation around that content.
So just to add to his point, so say for example, when we're doing, currently we're doing Indian Idol on digital. There is a linear format of doing Indian Idol, which is on television. Parallelly, we are now doing a lot of stuff on digital for Indian Idol. So basically, you're telling people, this is the way to sing. There are tutorials on the site with how you can sing. You're adding a lot of stuff around the core content, which makes the overall experience much better. So I don't think there is a competition between screens. I think the screen numbers are increasing, and therefore each screen will have the nuance that it brings to the table and therefore be able to add value to the consumer. And the consumer will come from different points and consume that content.
So how does branded content play out for you guys? Is there interest in, for example, on Savan for brands to create their own content and do those similar promo sort of an approach?
I think the first step is for brands to ring fence the kind of association that they want to drive. So, for example, when you think of
one example that I can think of is what HUL did with the Kankajura radio, right?
That's one kind of
on
example.
mobile, yeah.
The other thing I would probably say is, what do you guys think of when I say Bacardi, right? You guys think of beaches and you think of music, which is part. Why? Because they've driven that association hard, right? That's the opportunity for brands, for example, even on Savan, for example, they can actually ring fence that as an opportunity and own that space. There's a huge bunch of examples like this that we can actually do for different kinds of brands and to drive the specific kind of engagement that they want.
Okay. We'd like to open up for questions. Any questions around? There's one at the back there.
Hi, good morning. My name is Sumit from Max Life Insurance. Just wanted to touch upon this topic of democratization of content. That is something I think we couldn't discuss on the panel today.
Could you speak up a bit?
So what I wanted to talk about is this whole part of democratization of content. Now, one reason why you've seen the whole YouTube phenomenon is because it allowed users to participate. And it was not just passive consumption, there was a lot of active participation from users.
Yes.
Is there a thought process, from the panel here, be it, in the news genre or in the music genre, of how you would be able to get users to also contribute by means of content? So maybe for an NDTV, it's about an opinion coming in from users, or for a Savan, it's about, a launch pad of sorts for, budding musicians who want to upload their content. So just your thoughts on that.
So there are two aspects to that. One, while, as I was saying earlier, while I get democratization, but at the end of the day, when you are, especially when you're at the premium end, a lot of the content that you yourself are turning out is what's going to be key. We were talking about YouTube a short while back, but if you take NDTV, for example, we have our content on YouTube, but our consumption on our own platform is 3 times more than what the consumption is on YouTube, because we are delivering a certain experience which the people want to experience. So that's one part of it. I do believe that we are not going to get to the stage where people are going to be indifferent between Sony content and NDTV content, or Savan content and content that somebody is generating in their home. It's not. There is going to be a difference in that. But for us, one of the major things is that as you get more and more devices out there, and as bandwidth improves, let's remember right now, everything that we are saying is only for a very small section of the population which actually has good quality bandwidth. You try and get video in most parts of the country, or even most parts of Delhi now. You can't do it, nothing streams, it's all buffering. So as bandwidth goes up, devices go up, yes, there'll be a lot more democratization. And there are different ways of playing that particular story. So something which I personally think is going to be big is the entire second screen concept, where your device is a add-on to whatever you're seeing on TV. Whether it's voting in real time, sending plot lines in real time, saying I don't like this singer's voice in real time. All of that is going to become more and more, and that's how people are going to interact. And yes, there will be some uploading of people's own comments and own videos and all of that, but perhaps not as big as the other category.
I think in the music space, there's definitely a lot of opportunity to try and get new bands and new artists on board.
That's actually what YouTube has done, right? In case of Shraddha Sharma as well.
Correct, and I think that's an endeavor that's an ongoing endeavor as well for all the platforms. It's not just for us. I think it's an endeavor led by YouTube and then all the other platforms as well. I think it's a big. I was just in a conversation with one of the labels yesterday as well, and it's a conversation that appeared there as well. It's a big push even for the music labels because they understand that you could become in the near future, hopefully a Savan star, like Shraddha Sharma is a YouTube star, you probably become a Savan star. You have Indian Idol stars as well.
So just to add to that, I think we need to separate between content created, premium content created versus what I'm just creating in my bathroom or in my hall or whatever and just uploading it. Amateur content is different from creating professional content. So if somebody really takes it seriously and sings properly and creates a professional video and uploads it, there is a chance of him participating in that whole thing. And I think one of the things that we're doing in Sony is to make sure that we are bringing in talent and encouraging talent to come in and be part of the story, because some of the people don't know how to get the second part. They might be very good at creating content, telling stories, putting stories out there, but to be able to produce the right quality and to be able to distribute it and make money out of it is probably the differentiator that a lot of us will bring to the table, because we have the platforms to do that. So this is what I think some of us are doing, is to in part of the democratization of content, is to encourage content creators to come to us and be able to take them out.
And just to add to that, I think that from our point, taking people's content, taking people's opinions of what they've generated and putting it out, to some extent also depends on which area it is in. So for example, if people are sending us their food recipes or gadget reviews and saying this phone is good or this phone is bad or this is what I think about it, that's fine. We would be more hesitant of taking people's opinions in saying supposing there's some sectarian tension in some part of the country. Now taking people's opinions out there and putting them out is something which we would hesitate to do, because unless we have some way of verifying what the person has said is correct or not correct. So there is that filter. So in the news, for example, we'd be far more careful than we would in some other areas.
There was a question here. Yeah.
Hi, good morning. This is Shamrat Mukherjee from Crow's Nest, Kolkata. I have a question for Vikram. It was very encouraging when you say that your online numbers are actually more than your television numbers. Can you throw some light in terms of the reach or the users? What is giving that number?
No, so their online business is profitable.
Yeah, so I can tell you what the profitability that it's making. It's making decent money. When it comes to actual numbers, frankly, one of the issues that we've had in this country, and don't get me started on that, is that on the television side, there are no clear, robust numbers. So nobody has any real idea on the TV side right now, till the new rating system comes, as to who's watching what and how many people it's accessing. So everything is an extrapolation. What are your TV numbers? You're extrapolating on the basis of a not very robust sample of 8,000 people, right? Extrapolated to 1.3 billion.
Age-old.
Yeah, as I said, don't get me started on that. But so that's where we are. So but yes, on online we get a much clearer sense. We know what happens. We know that on election day, it was probably some sort of a record, if not a world record, certainly in India. We did 13 billion hits on that one day. And those are massive numbers. We're not quite sure what we did on TV because you don't have the data to tell you what you did on TV.
The question there from Anand.
Hi, Anand Gurnani here. My question to Vikram. Sir, you're not only the CEO of NDTV Group, but you're also one of the most tech-savvy people in media entertainment. So in the past 1 year...
Don't tell that to Rajiv, he'll get really upset.
In the past 1 year, what are the most impressive tech disruptions you've seen in M&E space from India?
Savan and Sonos. And I mean it.
You said that earlier. So
but I'll tell you why I mean it. Because increasingly, you are going to get, and you're talking about the Internet of Things, you are increasingly going to see the devices that you have in your home, and especially when it comes to music. There's no real reason why you should be constantly putting in your phones or your CD players or whatever into your devices and having to select playlists. Internet radio is here. You can have specialized services like Savan, which can be streaming. Right now, it's only on these 25,000 rupee boxes, but I'm sure at some point they will find a way of putting it into internet radio boxes, which are 5,000 or 6,000 rupees. And from that point onwards, you can get the Pandora type experience or the Spotify type experience here in India, where you're constantly hearing music around the clock, tailored for you, the sort of music that you like and constantly playing. I think it's potentially very disruptive.
In fact,
and I'm not just saying that because he's sitting here.
No. So also at the Mobile World Congress this year, IoT was the hottest topic. When smart cities get rolled out in India, you're going to see a lot more connected devices throughout. So that's something to keep an eye on for the next 5 to 6 years, I think. We run out of time. Do you have time for a few more questions? We can take 2 more questions. Someone on this side? Right there at the back. Yeah.
Hi, this is Rajiv from Accenture Interactive. My question is around mostly around the type of content that we're talking about, because currently I think we are talking premium content, and given the trends, I think based on the internet penetration going into the tier 2 towns and the villages, and those, not villages but per se, but semi-urban areas, with the digital movement, percolating down to those places. What is your strategy in terms of change or shift in time, the kind of content that you're going to be producing? Because right now I'm assuming most of it is premium, but are you looking at the next 200 million or 300 million? Where are they going to come from? What are you going to do? How are you going to monetize? Localization of content, and also there's a lot of not just that, most of the phones and most of the apps are also have local language type pads right now.
That's a full day conference by itself. So, you know, I'm sorry
for that.
Ask one question.
Yeah. So what are you planning to do around hitting the next 200 million or 300 million that are going to come online and not going to be speaking English?
Start.
Well, I think the last line that you said is the first and the most obvious part. They're not all going to be speaking English. So for companies like ours, vernacular, Hindi, other languages is going to become a major part of it. We've already started to bake it into things like the app where you can, one touch shift it to Hindi whenever you want. But I think there's going to be a lot more of that going forward. And also I think we have to be prepared for the fact that the next 200 is not going to have the best quality bandwidth. And that is something which I think we should bake in.
We'll have free Wi-Fi in Delhi.
And
I'll wait
even
for it.
From a music perspective, I think, I don't know whether you know, so we already offer content in 11 languages. There is, and some of the regional language content consumption is already bursting. I was talking about data earlier. Punjabi is bursting, Telugu is bursting, Bhojpuri is bursting. So it's already happening there. And the point about bandwidth that Vikram just made, we already try to gauge, we already have technology to try and gauge the bandwidth of the user and then stream appropriately. So that's already being worked on at the back. A lot of these technology upgrades or feature upgrades that happen at the back, and users don't really see it but just experience it normally.
So my guess is we are a content company which deals in languages. We are not in English. So it makes that much more easier. We don't need to change the text from English to Hindi or whatever. For us, a lot of it is naturally in the language that the consumer takes it. So the only challenge we will have probably is taking video out to a larger number of people. And that will probably depend a lot on the innovations on compression technology, on bandwidth, on the kind of phones that people are going to carry. And I think that is a process which will evolve over a period of time. Text would probably be the first thing that will start getting consumed. Music will probably be the second, and then video will follow. Because video probably takes the maximum amount of effort to reach out to those people. But in terms of production and in terms of language, for us that's much easier. That comes naturally to us.
So I'll also just answer that question. Keep one thing in mind. We're going to move from dial-up to broadband on mobile. We've got dial-up speeds right now. So what you're going to see is a massive amount of content consumption, all sorts of content being made available. Video is growing fast now. It's going to grow at a pace which you can't even expect, and networks are going to get stretched. So prepare for massive proliferation of content, and the primary role there is going to be of people who make sense of that content and make it available to people in a curated manner, which is why the role of editors in news, the role of aggregators and even creators in terms of video is not going to go out. No matter how much user-generated content you get, someone needs to make sense of it. So just expect massive consumption coming in, and for all the advertisers out there, expect an insane amount of inventory. We're out of time, so thanks for being a great audience.
Quick parting word, the NDTV app just said that Pakistan's 4 down for 112. So it is going to be India-Australia next semi-final.
Thank you.
Well, let's have a louder round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, our first keynote discussion for day 2.